Finance Ministry has removed additional excise duty on tobacco, pan masala and cigarettes with effect from July 1st following the GST rollout. This decision, according to analysts, could decrease the total tax levied on cigarettes by 4 to 9%.
Now, brokerages such as CLSA, ICICI Direct, Morgan Stanley, as well as Jefferies expect the tax impact to fall by anywhere between 4 to 10%. And as a result, the prices are also expected to fall and be passed through by ITC by anywhere between 2 to 6%.
Citizens, however, are unhappy with the decision. They ask, with essential daily goods not getting any tax reprieve, why are cigarettes getting preferential treatment?
Yeah, it is a bit of ironical that the things we actually need in our daily life, the rates are going up, and the things which are not so necessary, those all are the side products, and they are decreasing the rates of those things like cigarettes and alcohol and all.
वो 100 रुपए का भी हो जाएगा तो भी लोग लेने ही वाले हैं क्योंकि जिसको पीना है वो पिएगा ही.
No, I don't feel like this is the right move government has taken till date.
हम ऐसा चाहते हैं कि जो लाइफ में एसेंशियल चीज़ें हैं उसकी रेट कम हो. सिगरेट, अल्कोहल, ड्रग्स, ये सब की रेट बढ़े. क्योंकि ये जितना ज़्यादा इजीली अवेलेबल होगा उतने स्मोकर्स बढ़ेंगे, उतने ड्रिंक करने वाले बढ़ेंगे.
ये खाने पीने जो चावल दाल आटा है, सब्जी बिस्किट, ये टमाटर से महंगे ना हो गया, गरीब लोग बहुत कम खा रहे हैं, तो सब सस्ते करना चाहिए.
When sanitary napkins are taxed at 12% and 5% GST is levied on glucose biscuits, is it absolutely necessary to reduce the tax on cigarettes? So on the urban debate tonight, we ask, where are our priorities? Mirror Now report.
Good evening, you're watching the Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I'm Faye D'Souza. Here's the question. We made cigarettes cheaper through GST. At a point when we had enough people in this country, including this channel, asking for sanitary napkin tax to be reduced, asking for wheelchairs, tax on wheelchairs, tax on crutches, things that people use when they are differently abled and need to get around. We wanted for the tax to come down. Hearing aids, the tax needs to come down. We asked for the cheapest biscuits, which are the glucose biscuits available at 2 rupees for 8. We asked for that tax to come down. None of it was considered. But we have cheaper cigarettes. How do we have cheaper cigarettes? What is the explanation for this? How did we arrive at a day and age when glucose biscuits are more expensive, but cigarettes have become cheaper? All we want tonight is an explanation. Did someone in the government miscalculate? In which case, do we have not the best mathematical and taxation minds on the job? Or did the government do this deliberately, in which case the whole other set of questions need to be asked tonight as to where our priorities are and what lobbies we're really listening to. Our phone lines are open and the panel is open right now. Gopal Agarwal, National Spokesperson of the BJP, joins me on the show. Sanjay Jha, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Abhishek A Rastogi is a tax partner at Khaitan Co. Ram Agarwal, practicing chartered accountant and GST expert. Trisha Shetty, lawyer and founder of the NGO SheSays, who's been running the campaign for the removal of tax from sanitary napkins. Muralidharan is the secretary of the National Platform for the Rights of the Disabled. Dr. Sajeela Maini is the president of the Tobacco Control Foundation of India and the head of the department of the Gangaram Hospital of Tobacco Cessation. She's a specialist as well. I'm going to start with Gopal Agarwal before we go over to all of our panelists. Gopal Agarwal, please tell me, how did we wind up with cheaper cigarettes in this country when everything else, almost everything else, has been taxed?
If you want to go into the debate, then first our facts should be correct. If the facts are not correct, then the debate will be useless. First thing is that the disability GST on disability item, the GST Council had set the limit from 5% to 18%. The government has put up a GST of only lower slab of 5%. The second thing you are talking on sanitary napkins, that the government has very well explained that in the GST Council this issue was largely and greatly debated, but it is because of the inverted price structure that happens in the manufacturing of sanitary napkins, because the input material that the sanitary napkin uses attracts, like polymers and other things, they attract a duty of 18%. So in the final product, if we do not put a duty lesser than 12%, then inverted duty structure will come into play and the manufacturers will be at a loss. And the second important thing is out of that thing is that majority of rural population which is using the sanitary napkins and these things are in the cottage industries, and that is below the turnover of 20 lakhs. So there is no GST attracted on any turnover below 20 lakhs. This is for the second thing. And on the third thing which you are talking of is on the tobacco. Tobacco, the government has only removed excise, which had to be removed because of 2000. It was installed in 2010 Act, and government has levied cess in addition to GST. Government can levy cess from 50% to 204% of cess can be levied, and the government has levied cess on tobacco items, cigars, chewing tobacco, all these things. They are attracting cess in addition to GST, and a fixed cess also is being put up on every around more than 2,000 rupees per thousand of cigarettes.
Gopal Agarwal, allow me to rebut you, please.
Excise, which was an old act, has been repealed it. So there is, in addition to GST, there is a cess which the government has already levied.
Gopal Agarwal, allow me to rebut you, please. Point number one, you said that there is a 5% cap on anything that the disabled need to use. Wheelchairs are being taxed at 12%. The aids being used by differently abled being taxed at 18%. Secondly, you talked about cottage industry, and I'll, for sanitary napkins, I'll allow Trisha to answer that question. But to come back to what you said about tax on cigarettes, let me quote here ICICI Direct. Let me also quote Morgan Stanley and Jeffries, who put out reports saying that cigarettes net pre-GST, post-GST will become between 4 and 10% cheaper. And this is not my calculation, this is calculation done. And let's point out that the companies that manufacture cigarettes, their stock shot through the roof on Monday morning, because analysts figured out, after doing the calculation, on Monday morning, that cigarettes are going to become cheaper and these companies will profit. But Trisha Shetty, the point about sanitary napkins, go ahead.
I think he raised a few points. He spoke about the turnover.
No, I think Mr. Ram should clarify these things.
Let me put this, let me interrupt this. So far, this GST on the wheelchair and the assistive tools and the rehabilitation tools are concerned, there are 22 items including wheelchairs, walking frames, the artificial limbs, and so on and so forth. There are 22 assistive items which have been kept at 5%. So I would like to make this clarify to all the viewers that these rumors of 12% or 18% on these disabled assisted tools is not correct. It is 5%, number one. So that's
what about braille typewriters?
That is also 5%.
It's also 5%.
So there are 22 items which have been identified by the government and they have been kept at 5%. So the 12% or 18% may be certain items which are not used for the common masses and common this thing. So that is not the correct interpretation.
But are they used by people who are differently able?
Yeah,
or
for
not?
instance, let's say the hearing, all hearing assistants, all these walking frames, which is typically used in the orthopedician and when an accident happens and all, like this wheelchair, which is commonly used for the elderly people and all that. So that's precisely, and there are long list also. There are 22 such items which have been kept at 5%. That's
what is at 12% then?
12%. There are excessive, like in case of advanced surgeries, when sometimes some tubes are used, some excessive things are used. Okay, like for hearing also there are different varieties of the equipment available.
If I'm using advanced equipment, I should pay a higher tax. But if I'm smoking cigarettes, I shouldn't.
Coming to the cigarette also, just to clarify here.
Yes.
Like
cigarette I already explained.
Just a minute. Just to clarify here the facts, of course, there is a comparison of the existing versus the GST levy. In existing, the cigarette is attracting 84% in the total this duty, the excise duty of 64% and the VAT 24%. So in case of certain cigarette, let's say if it is a 65 and less ml.
Sir, kam hota hai ki nahi kam hota?
Yeah, in 65 m category, the cigarette is reducing by 4 to 6%. But when we go up in other cigarette, like this impact is not there. But yes, cigarette is one category.
Cigarette is one category where the price is definitely coming down. Let me now allow Trisha. One second. Let me just bring in Muralidharan. One second. We'll come back to you. Muralidharan, representing the rights of the disabled.
One sanitary napkin also has to be clarified.
Yes, we will clarify one by one. Muralidharan, representing the rights of the disabled. Do you believe that the taxation of these articles has been fair?
You see, actually, when it started, actually, the range was from 5 to 18%.
Yes.
It's right that has been brought down to 5%. But this was brought down after protests across several states and at the national level. After huge protests, actually, the government has brought it down from 18 to 5%. Agreed. One or two items, the tax is still at 18%. But most of the items, they brought it down to 5%. But even now, you see, the government has taken the plea that the 5% they have imposed is to protect the domestic manufacturer. But many of these items are actually imported items. Like braille paper is imported, braille writers are imported, braille writing instruments are imported. Many of these items are actually imported. They are not manufactured locally. It would be ideal if they are manufactured. So who is the government trying to protect actually? The government is taking the plea, this is to actually protect the domestic industry. But these are imported, these are items that are imported. And these items were actually out of the tax regime. It attracted neither custom duties nor VAT. Now imposing 5% duty on these items,
he wants the GST to be higher or lower?
We want it to be lower actually.
We want wheelchairs to be treated with the same priority as tobacco.
We want it to be cheap.
Lower slab.
No, you're talking, gold is 3%.
Oh, the tobacco is attracting more than 70 or 80%.
I am not talking about tobacco. I am not talking about tobacco. I am talking about gold. 3% for gold.
So disability items are kept at 5%.
Sir, I am not talking about that. I am saying you capped it at 5%.
You never protested when gold was out of excise.
You're not letting him make his point,
It's not my concern. I'm just trying to make a point. I'm just trying to make a point.
Let him make his point, please.
Now we have put up
lobbying for any gold.
3%.
Could you please allow me to complete my point?
Faye, please don't allow the BJP to hijack this program by interrupting.
You know, I just want everybody to make their points. And Gopal Agarwal, you know that we give everybody equal time to speak on the panel. I want Mr. Muralidharan to finish, complete his point, and then we can address the sanitary napkin problem.
Okay.
Mr. Muralidharan, please go ahead.
I am saying the government is claiming that this will bring down, it is to protect the domestic manufacturer. What I am saying is most of these items are imported items. Braille paper is imported, braille printer is imported, braille notebooks are imported, braille display refresher, all audio labeling devices, all these items are imported. They were exempt from all sort of duties earlier. Now, by imposing 5% GST, the rates of this cost of these items are going to be on the higher side. So, we would have, but I am saying again about the priorities of the government. Like I said about gold and precious stones, the duties have been brought down. But there are items on which there is zero GST also. It is not that everything is 5%. There is zero GST on kumkum, on kajal, on bindi, on bangles.
Gold duty has not been brought down. Why you are
they are zero GST. They are zero GST.
Duty has been increased from 0 to 3%.
There are zero GST now. But
now why you are quoting wrong facts? It's a factual
It is a question of the priority of the government. I am saying it is a question of priority of the government.
The point he's making is very simple. If there are some articles that were considered for zero tax, why weren't these items considered for zero tax as well? Trisha Shetty, to address the cottage industry sanitary napkins, Mr. Gopal Agarwal said, Trisha, that most of the rural women, the women in rural India, use sanitary napkins from cottage industries that fall under the purview or out of the purview of GST.
I don't know where he makes that assumption, because if he actually looked at verified statistics and facts, he would realize that, well, most women in India don't have access to sanitary napkins or any sort of menstrual hygiene products. The number being 88% of women in India don't have access. Why? 80% of them cite affordability. So that's one thing. We've also filed multiple RTIs to understand the situation, and we've realized that many villages don't even sell any sort of sanitary napkin products. So accessibility is also another problem. Second, coming back to self-help groups, our representation, out of the 133 representations that this government and GST Council has categorically chosen to ignore, listed also that we need to boost self-help groups to make sure that sanitary napkins can be, can be available at a lower cost. Currently, what's happening is we have the National Rural Health Scheme, not just under the current government's mandate, even under the previous government's mandate, that has promised, and it's under their schemes to ensure that they distribute sanitary napkins at a low cost. And the way they do this is through tenders. But what we've noticed is that there's 0% transparency in how they get the tenders and how they distribute eventually the sanitary napkins. The current government has also categorically and consistently made assurances that they'll have vending machines in public institutions such as schools, colleges, incinerators to dispose of sanitary napkins, which hasn't happened.
The information now that cigarettes are actually going to get cheaper post-GST.
So where is their priority? Where is their concern for women at large? Also, taxing sanitary napkins, we've made sound arguments as to why it is against our fundamental rights. It's against the right to life. It decreases female participation in schools, at the workplace. There's increase in cervical rate cancer, increase in reproductive tract incidents. So when you have the health repercussions, the economic repercussions, the educational repercussions, and the worst part is they're refusing to categorize sanitary napkins as an essential commodity. Should they categorize it as an essential commodity, it also addresses their concerns where they say MNCs will benefit. They won't benefit because we can ask them for a price ceiling. So at least do something. You will not make it tax-free. You will not categorize it as an essential commodity. And this again begs the question of, is it because we don't have women on the GST Council? How would you all know the plight of women? We don't even have one woman being represented at the GST Council to put forth our issues. Beyond just that, you categorically choose to ignore the plight of women, the voice of activists who've collectively come up and told the government through our Twitter campaign that went viral that we do not want sanitary napkins to be taxed. So give us an explanation for this.
At all. And I want to bring in Dr. Maini here. Dr. Maini, this is rubbing salt in burning wounds, because after all of the campaigning that was done to leave sanitary napkins out of GST and to actually bring it down to 0% tax, not only was it taxed, to now find out that cigarettes are cheaper is just plain offensive.
One thing I just want to
let her speak. Let her speak.
Can I just speak, sir? Yeah. I don't know. It is a debate on taxes on cigarettes reduced by 4 to 9%, and the debate is actually going off way. I would. we are discussing about sanitary napkins and parle biscuits here. Yes, it's very unfortunate that, and I will not go into the details of the numbers because I am not a financial expert. Yes, overall the taxes on cigarettes have been reduced by 4% to 9%. The taxes would reduce and the prices would be lesser. The impact of this lesser price would be actually detrimental for the nation. We need to understand
what is the source of information.
What source of information, sir? I am a tobacco specialist, sir. I help people quit smoking.
Check the source.
Sir, tobacco is what source of information, sir? I'm not talking about the numbers, sir. I'm not talking about the numbers. I'm talking about what the impact will, the lesser price with the price, what do you say, price kam hona. What impact will that bring in the society? It will increase the social acceptability of cigarettes. It will increase the consumption of cigarettes. What are cigarettes? Cigarettes are not like parle biscuits or sanitary napkins. My foundation is actually working on the complete ban of the tobacco products. So now what we are doing, we are talking about the graphic warnings. We are talking about the graphic warnings of the cigarette packets. We are talking about what this is really unfortunate for the cigarette companies. Actually, for us, it is actually fortunate for the cigarette companies. The prices would be lesser. The consumption would increase. People will die of smoking. People will die of the excise duty and the revenue that was collected even previously by by selling the cigarette products. We were spending more amount in the treatment of the diseases caused by tobacco, the tobaccosis, the diseases. We were spending more money. So basically, the impact on the society would be actually detrimental. We are actually increasing the acceptance among the youngsters. Yes, cigarettes are cheaper. Government is accepting this. Go ahead and smoke more cigarettes. Yeah, and we cannot compare cigarettes with parle biscuits and sanitary napkins. Please, sir, we cannot compare. These are two different things. One is a poison one is a product which has around 5,000 poisons in it, and the other is a Marie biscuit or a glucose biscuit. We cannot compare the two.
No voices that haven't spoken yet.
The price
Sanjay Jha.
Increased. The prices should be increased.
Sanjay Jha and Ram Agarwal. I'll go to Sanjay Jha first. Sanjay Jha, go ahead. Where do you stand on this?
Well, let me tell you one thing, Faye, and I want to be very upfront. the BJP spokesperson is misleading your viewers, and I'll tell you why. Number one, as somebody rightly pointed out, on the wheelchairs and braille typewriters, etc., I think until public pressure was mounted on them, I think the government did not relent. And even the 5% GST ought to be removed. I mean, you can't have people with any disability being made to pay tax at all. Point number two, let's look at sanitary napkins. Mr. Agarwal tells you about, the fact that in rural India, the producers will not have to pay GST if they have a 20 lakh turnover, etc., etc. The truth is sanitary napkins today, as the lady earlier mentioned, are being made by, multinational brands or companies who are actually very, very established. And if only 7% of women use sanitary napkins, and most of them are urban, living in metropolises, etc., where is the question here of believing that you can't make the tax more friendly? He gave you the spin here, and I'm sure Mr. Agarwal will respond to this, about some imported component. Well, let me tell you, Mr. Agarwal, you have got something called as a revenue neutral rate, right? So you could have actually made the tax on sanitary napkins 0% and charged that so-called revenue loss onto some other product that really deserved to be. And that, by the way, should be cigarettes. Because let me tell you one thing, Faye, a 5% reduction, effective reduction in tax on tobacco means an earning to the profitability of tobacco companies that runs into thousands of crores. That is this is a volume business. So you can imagine the kind of deals they're going to have. So end of day, what is the truth? The truth, one last point. The truth, therefore, Mr. Agarwal, is that when it comes to items even like refrigerators and washing machines and food processors and mixers, which women use, actually these are items that make women independent. They are items that make women actually go to work because they have certain friendly household assets that can help them.
A husband who knows how to cook can also make women go to work.
You have put them in the luxury category at 28%.
Sanjay Jha, while I appreciate the point you're making, I don't want to, I don't want to condone the idea that, mixer grinders and fridges and cooking equipment effectively used by women to make us more independent. A husband who helps out in the kitchen would be just as useful, and it's tax-free. I want to bring in Gopal Krishna Agarwal. I want to bring in Gopal Krishna Agarwal to respond to what Sanjay Jha said. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, go ahead.
One thing I want to tell on the sanitary napkin is not only the 20 lakh turnover is exempt from GST, even turnover of up to between 20 to 75 lakhs can only pay 1 to 2% of GST.
Just let me rephrase my question.
Not pay anything other than that.
Gopal Krishna Agarwal, let me just rephrase my question.
One more important.
Let me just rephrase my question. Please address the tobacco issue. Explain the tobacco issue to me. How did we wind up with cheaper cigarettes? How did we wind up with cheaper cigarettes? Please tell me. Was it a miscalculation in the GST Council, or was it done deliberately? How did this happen?
Yes, I tell you. No, I tell you one thing. On the cigarette, on tobacco industries, one thing is that the GST is at the highest rate of 28%. In addition to GST, on this commodities like which are called sin items like tobacco and other things, there was the government GST Council had given the right to the government to levy additional cess from 60 to 204%. The government can levy anything in the form of cess in addition to GST. In that range, the government has definitely levied some of the cess on those items. Another thing is that the government has also levied a fixed amount of cess on the length of based on the length of the cigarette. In addition, total of these three, GST plus cess plus fixed amount of charge, if that comes to lower than the earliest, the government has tried to link it to the and tried not to let any price tax reduce from the earlier rate. If anything has come in any category.
Mr. Ram Agarwal, who is the tax expert on the panel, just confirmed to me that the tax is coming down. Let me also, one second, let me also bring in Abhishek Rastogi, who joins us. He's a tax partner at Khaitan Co. Abhishek Rastogi, have you done the calculations? Will some cigarettes, if not all, become cheaper? Because when I read ICICI Direct's report, it says cigarettes will come down by at least 2.5 rupees or 2.5%. Morgan Stanley says 2%. Net tax comes down by 4%. Jeffries says net tax will come down by 8 to 10%, and cigarette prices will come down between 4 and 5%. Do you agree, Abhishek Rastogi?
Don't go by media reports.
This is not media. These are research companies.
Don't go by media reports.
Let Mr. Abhishek Rastogi make his point, please. Abhishek Rastogi, go ahead.
Can I please have my views now?
Abhishek Rastogi,
can I please have my views? I've been listening quite patiently. Can I please make my point? See, today the basic understanding of the multiple tier system is that the basic commodities which are of daily necessities, and we've been talking about sanitary napkins quite a bit, and of course the tax rate on such products has to come down for a very simple reason that these are commodities of essential nature. These are used by people of all classes and so on and so forth. And that's why the tax rate today which we have, we do not have two tax rates the way we have it in the developed countries. Today we have the rate of 0%, 3%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28% plus the cesses. But now see, understand what has happened in that process is some of these products may have become slightly cheaper, some of these products may have become slightly expensive. And I think the credit should go to the government to a very large extent, because it was not easy to fix rates for most of these items because there were states also which were involved. Now let's come to an example of sanitary napkins. Of course, the point which has been made in this debate, which have been made earlier,
do you agree that
is a very
cigarettes will
fair
become
point,
cheaper?
that a tax on such product has to come down. And I was listening to the debate. Let me just make my point. I was listening to the debate, and some gentleman in that debate said that the inverted duty structure exists for pharma companies and the sanitary napkins. But I think we are completely ignoring the provisions, because whenever there is an inverted duty structure, there is a refund mechanism in place as well. There are provisions with respect to anti-profiteering as well, which means that if the rate on sanitary napkins come down, I mean, I'm not saying an exempted rate, but as low as possible, the inverted duty structure, even if it remains, would
GST. So that argument is defunct then, according to our tax experts. Abhishek Rastogi, also help me out here, please. And I want both the tax experts to help me out. Abhishek, have you done the calculation to cigarettes? Is it true that cigarettes, and I'm asking this because Mr. Agarwal is refuting the data on screen, do cigarettes effectively come down post-GST?
Let me put this, before we jumping on,
one thing.
So far, just a minute, sir. Let me interrupt, because we have discussed about. May I come in?
No, see, one at a time. See, I just want to establish, one second, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to establish the fact. And we're quoting research firms that tell us cigarettes will come down in prices. Is that true or is that not? Abhishek Rastogi, I'll come back to you, Ram. Abhishek Rastogi, is that not true?
Yeah, so of course, after removing of these additional excise duties on cigarettes will marginally come down. But let's understand one thing, that the government still has the power to impose cesses between a limit. Today, as we speak,
but the government has the power to ban tobacco altogether. They haven't done so. The government has the power to do a lot of things that they haven't done. Effectively, price, and we can underplay it by saying marginally cheaper, but cheaper is cheaper. Cheaper is cheaper on a product that we should be vehemently discouraging.
Ma'am, making it cheaper would actually have a great impact on the nation.
We are, MRP and everything are being adjusted.
Let me come,
So MRP and all prices are being adjusted on a
coming
daily
to the
basis.
point, the overall, see the tobacco includes cigarette, BDs, chewing tobacco, pan masala with gutka. So this is the 5 broad categories of these tobacco and tobacco and all. So if we talk about chewing tobacco, which is commonly used at the masses level, there is a neutral impact. In fact, the cess which are being levied on these varies from 60 to 180%, 200%, and these are levied on the MRP. Please remember one thing, that the different companies have a different MRPs, and accordingly these cess would be levied, because these are the ad valorem duty. Means if you have a 3 rupees, then 60% would be 180 rupees, 180 paisa. So there would be.
So are you saying it's okay?
I'm coming on.
Are you saying it's okay?
So, no. There is a one category of cigarettes.
Like one is enough, sir.
I'm coming on that. I'm not protecting the government. I'm saying just for the panel clarity in terms of the facts and figures. Like BD, currently it is a 28% tax, 22% of excise duty, 6% of VAT, which is the maximum rate.
Specifically, which are the ones that will become cheaper?
Yeah, so cigarette in the category of 65 mm, okay, which is the category where 5 rupees or 6 rupees is MRP. Their current tax is about 84% or some 84%, 64% plus 20. If we go by the cess which have been levied, which is 1491 per 1000 cigarette and 5% cess, so in that category 4 to 6% cigarette would cheaper.
Will become
in
cheaper.
case of other categories of cigarette, it would be neutral and all that.
Right. So that's my point. That's my point. There is a category of cigarettes that will become cheaper. Bus. That is all we're talking about.
Even tobacco would become cheaper, ma'am.
Yes. To the ladies,
even the tobacco product, the tobacco chewing products will also become cheaper. One thing I need to be very clear that yes, any marginal change in the price will not make an impact on the consumer, because the consumer will anyways pay lesser or more, whatever, because the price rise and the price
so what is
reduction has not made an impact so far, but definitely it will increase the acceptance, the social acceptance of the cigarette more. That the government is actually wanting this. Why the laxity on the cigarette part? We cannot compare the sin products with the products that you are actually.
Trisha Shetty,
I want to actually pose a very direct question to Mr. Gopal Agarwal. You keep asking for verified stats and reports. AC Nielsen, which is a globally recognized institution that looks at data and does research and study, has categorically said that only 12% of the 355 million women in India use sanitary napkins. We have girls, adolescent girls, missing 50 days of school, and on average in a year in India, 23% of girls dropping out of school, high rate of cervical cancer, high rate of RTI. I am asking you categorically, what is the reason behind the government refusing to make sanitary napkins tax-free? Second, you have zero transparency when it comes to your national rural health schemes that ensures distribution of low-cost sanitary napkins to even those rural women who can't even afford the basic cost of sanitary napkins. Third, we have three big MNCs in the space right now, Johnson & Johnson, P&G and Unilever. With all their marketing, distribution, shelf space, they still haven't managed to penetrate the market. So don't give us excuses that MNCs will benefit.
So the point we're making...
Which lobby are you listening to? Are you listening to your cigarette tobacco lobby? Are you listening to women activists, women voices? Which lobby are you choosing to listen and which lobby are you choosing to ignore? Because right now you've ignored women activists and youth activists around India who've lobbied against the tax on sanitary napkins.
Let him answer. Gopal Krishna.
Why so...
Gopal Krishna Agarwal.
This is an emotional appeal. We respect.
It is not emotional. No. Mr. Agarwal, you know, one second, Mr. Agarwal, please, just because women are talking, please don't say we are emotional. We are not emotional. The calculations have no emotion. This is a conversation of calculations and numbers. It is not emotional.
Let me finish.
Yes, go ahead.
So I am telling you the reason behind. She has asked the reason, I am telling you the reason. It was discussed by the government and the GST Council. The problem was several inputs in the sanitary napkins are like polymers and other things which are used in
that
other
argument has
items
just been refuted by both tax experts on this panel.
The same answer again.
But it is an inverted duty structure. No, but my question is, I just need to ask a question. Even if there is an inverted duty structure, there is an refund mechanism.
Hang on. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, let me ask you a question. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, let me ask you a question. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, one second. Everybody just give me 1 second. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, that argument of inverted tax structure has been refuted by Abhishek Rastogi, who is a very respected tax expert. Now, if there are certain categories, Gopal Agarwal.
I tell you, inverted tax structure under GST. Wait. Abhishek, you wait. You have given a wrong fact. Under GST, there is no provision of refund of taxes.
You are abusing your position by misleading the people who are watching this program.
No, Mr. Agarwal, please explain to me, how did we wind up with cheaper cigarettes? I've asked this question 3 times, you have not answered. How did we wind up, and it has been confirmed by both tax experts and by various research firms, how did we wind up with cheaper cigarettes after GST? Did you miscalculate? Was there a miscalculation in the government, or has this been done on purpose? There are only 2 answers. A, we miscalculated. 2, we did it on purpose. Which one is it? Yes or no?
It is a work in progress.
No.
It is a work in progress. If there is anomaly, we will correct it.
So it was a mistake.
We have done it in the disabled items.
No. So cigarette tax was a mistake.
Government has always been soft on cigarettes, ma'am.
Government will have to do it again. The impact
that you have to. No, Faye, one important thing.
Did you make a mistake or did you not make a mistake?
With a circular which says that both earlier MRP and the new MRP have to be published on every product. If there is an anomaly in difference in that, they both have to be published on the printed on the product.
Did you make a mistake?
If these kind of things are there, government will come to know and will correct it.
So you made a mistake. All right. So you made a mistake.
No
the government made a mistake in calculation of cigarette prices. You weren't able to correctly do the mathematics behind it, and you made a mistake, and now you will correct it. That's what you're saying?
I'm telling you, the MRP has to be printed.
Did you make a mistake? Okay, so now if you did not make a mistake, Gopal Agarwal. Okay, Gopal Agarwal, now I have one more question for you. I'm
telling you.
I heard you. I heard you. You said MRP will be published. The government will take a look at it. It is a work in progress, which means that you made a mistake. You didn't calculate properly. You didn't realize that cigarettes will be cheaper. Now you'll fix that problem. You'll fix it in due time. Here's my question. The biggest cigarette manufacturing company.
No, there are some other reasons also in decision making.
Okay, there are other. Let me ask you one question. I'm asking you about that. The biggest cigarette manufacturing company in the country is ITC. The government has a very large stake in ITC, both direct and indirect. The government is looking at selling its stake under its SUTI sale in less than a month. It is in the general interest of the shareholder, which in this case is the government of India, that the price of the stock of ITC stay high. Is that the reason why this is a work in progress and a calculation that is perhaps going to take 1 month for the government of India to complete?
No, that way.
Ma'am, that is the reason. That's why there is always soft on cigarettes. Always soft on cigarettes. Tobacco lobby has always been.
Tobacco lobby has always been strong.
And the tobacco lobby is actually governing the rules of the country.
The government has stake in the whole economy. The government has stake in the whole economy.
No, you have direct
stake. Financial institutions like LIC.
Do you know what SUTI is? Do you know what the special?
So is the government of India?
You know what the special vehicle of investment SUTI is? Do you know that there is a stake sale happening in less than a month? Are you aware of the stake sale? Are you aware of LIC's holding 16%, GIC holding 1.76%, New India Assurance holding 1.7%, Oriental Assurance holding 1.4%, a total holding of the government, direct and indirect, and this is from the BSC website, 30.25% of ITC held by the government of India.
Nifty 30 countries, 30 companies. The GIC and LIC have stake in most of the 30 Nifty and 50
Okay, so either you did this on purpose or it was a mistake. Which one was it?
Is dependent on this.
Faye, that is a huge revelation.
These are not the way government takes decisions.
That's a huge revelation.
These are the government.
So it was a mistake then. This was an oversight. It was a mistake. There was a calculation mistake, Gopal Agarwal.
I am telling you, it's a work in progress. If there are some anomalies, government will correct it. And there are several reasons. We are giving explanation to everything. Still, there are multiple reasons which come into a decision making. It is what is the harm that we will not reduce the
when will you reduce
duties on disabled items?
When will you reduce? When will you fix this problem of the tax on cigarettes?
We are doing it. Already reduced. There was. The government has accepted that earlier they had kept a higher rate on disabled items. When there was a demand, government has come out and reduced it.
Laws of the country.
Government is open to this discussion.
Okay, so you're open to it. All right. So you will fix it. And the fact that we are fixing something obviously indicates that there was a mistake to begin with. Musa is on the phone line from Bahrain. People are watching the show across the world. Musa, go ahead. What's your question?
No, this is not called a mistake.
It's not a mistake. Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello.
Musa, go ahead.
Yes, madam. Thank you for giving me a chance to talk. I just want to tell again, this sanitary napkin actually should be tax-free when PM says Beti Bachao and selfies and all that. It should have come as a tax-free, because even in BBC I had heard about these women being sent out of the house during the menstruation period. And all these problems are there existing. We are still primitive in many ways, and I'm surprised that it's not becoming a tax-free in our country, where you have
That's an excellent point. Lakshmi Narayan on the phone line from Hyderabad has been holding for a while. Thank you for holding, Mr. Narayan. Go ahead, we can hear you.
Good evening, Ms. D'Souza and the panel. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. My simple question to Mr. Agarwal on his convoluted spin, as the other gentleman Rastogi said, a whole thing rests on a simple thing that why don't you exempt every item that is used in...
Yes?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Why don't you exempt every item that is used to make a sanitary napkin free of tax? That makes it very simple. Don't talk about, that polymer is going to cost. Entire thing, you can have movies which are entertainment tax free. Why not you have entire thing to do with sanitary napkins tax free?
Right. So there's a general agreement that the entire case for sanitary napkins should continue. But I want to go back, to Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha?
Faye, can I answer this?
Okay, all right. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, answer it, and then Sanjay Jha.
No, Faye, can I answer this? This question was addressed to me.
Faye.
Because there are inputs like polymers which are used for other industries also. So if you make it zero tax on only, it is not only used for sanitary napkins. There are other industrial use.
It can be end user specific.
Differentiate various uses. So that's and then it will make the same complexity.
Okay, all right. So we got your point. Let people rebut. Sanjay Jha, Ram and Abhishek, I'll come to you after this. Sanjay Jha, go ahead. Sanjay Jha.
It will create a complexity of indirect tax.
Okay, we heard you.
Let me tell you, in fact, the sanitary napkin issue.
Otherwise, Sanjay Jha, go ahead.
Gopal ji, jara shanti rakhiye. So, Faye, let me tell you, interestingly, on the sanitary napkin issue, there was bipartisan support. Congress MP Sushmita Dev helped raise an online campaign with 3 lakhs people supporting it, and Manika Gandhi, who's the Child and Women Welfare Development Minister, backed it. Despite that, you have the government which comes out with this extremely complicated rubbish to justify that a tax GST rate on sanitary napkins is applicable. It is a ridiculous proposition. I can tell you that end of day, no matter what inverted structure is talking about, the principle is very simple, Faye, that when you had the GST, the government has the right to allocate which way it wants to shift the tax liability. In fact, that is one of the very reasons why we had insisted all along, the Congress party insisted all along, that you have a cap of 18% on GST. Now, the reason why there are several problems happening on several products today is because the government has decided to have 6 tax structures plus cess. And it doesn't know how
Sanjay, I want to bring you back to the question at hand tonight, which is the tax on tobacco and how we wound up with cheaper cigarettes and why we wound up with cheaper cigarettes.
I just want to make 2 instances.
Yes.
I just want to make 2 examples. I mean, we've been talking about cigarettes, sanitary napkins, and so on and so forth. But let's just take 2 examples. The first example is publishing house of the books. While some categories of books have been exempted, the other categories of books are taxable. But let's understand the publisher who pays 12% GST on paper, pays 18% tax on printing, and pays the royalty under the reverse charge. And if he's not able to offset any of these, it becomes a tax cascading. So we've been talking about the sanitary napkins. What happens to the cost of the books in most of the cases? That's the first example. And I think the second example is with respect to the law firms. There are today certain exemptions. There are today certain provisions where reverse charge mechanism
Abhishek, I know you represent Khaitan Co, but I don't want to get derailed from the fact that we are talking about the fact that tax on cigarettes have actually come down. I appreciate the point you're making, and we will focus on what's happening with law firms as well. But let's keep the debate on point. Let's keep the debate on point. I'm still asking about cigarettes.
Duty. I want to clarify one point.
Right, Ram. 1 second. Ram.
One point. I think I have been listening all these debates in last 4 or 5 days where the sanitary napkins becoming costlier. See, the sanitary...
Sir, it's not about... See, let me just put this out. Let me just put this out for the gentlemen on the panel who rolled your eyes when you said sanitary napkins. Let me just point out something to you. We're not asking for it. We're not saying that, oh my God, it's becoming more expensive. We're saying don't put tax.
Yes.
Don't put tax on this product.
So if government wants to pass on the benefit to all my sisters and mothers, we are, as a citizen of India, we welcome this because this should happen. We support this demand. But the sanitary napkin becoming rarer just because of GST, this is a myth. Because in existing scenario also,
so my
14% is being levied. So that's one point.
No, one second. No, let's not even go down that rabbit hole.
In MVAT it's 6% and under central excise duty it's 6%. You need to know your numbers.
Let me just point out to you, it is obvious and it has been displayed by the people planning this GST, by the council, that it is possible to make a product cheaper through GST. What is the product they chose to make cheaper? Cigarettes. Why couldn't that courtesy have been extended to wheelchairs, to hearing aids, to glucose biscuits and to sanitary napkins is my only question. Disabled people, women and children, there are enough vaccinations. We pay 5% GST on vaccinations. Now, is that an option or is not an option? You decided that you will use the process to make cigarettes cheaper.
And 3% on gold.
Now, explain to me how this happened.
And the GST
explain to me why your hands were tied when you were making sanitary napkins at 12%. When you wrote down on a piece of paper, decided after debate that it is a good idea to tax hearing aids, you wrote at whatever percent. You wrote down on a piece of paper, decided it was a good idea to tax vaccinations. How did cigarettes wind up becoming cheaper? Someone please explain this to me. Who was doing the math inside the GST Council? And either someone horribly got their mathematics wrong, in which case we are in deep trouble, or someone did this on purpose, in which case we are in worse trouble. Explain to me which of the two options it is. Is it bad or is it worse? Gopal Krishna Agarwal, please go ahead.
You want me to? I told you that there are calculations in the GST Council, and based on it is not only the final GST which is decided, it is dependent on cess and other duties also. Then we have to take care of the input tax credit that has to work through the whole supply chain. If you don't understand that the total input tax credit has to be written off by the final GST, then the whole supply chain will be will have a difficulty.
How did cigarettes become
what
cheaper?
has been said about inverted tax credit,
how did the cigarettes become cheaper, Mr. Agarwal?
No, but there is no concept of refund.
How did the cigarettes become cheaper, Mr. Agarwal?
Cigarette has become cheaper only one as if I go by your contention that one section of cigarette has become cheaper by 4% or 2.5% than earlier, the government will look into it and see to it why it is there.
So there was an oversight.
Overall,
Why cheaper cigarettes, sir?
Achieving the cigars and other cigarettes are
not good enough.
No, they have not been made cheaper. In that calculation, if
गलती से आप sanitary napkins तो cheaper बना सकते थे.
Come down, the government will definitely rework.
Ma'am, can I just answer?
No, let me just Dr. Maini, here's my contention. 5% on LPG cylinder, which we use to make food, 5% on soap, 28% on toothpaste. We would like everybody to brush their teeth in this country. We're paying tax on ghee. गलती से ये चीजें तो कम करिए.
GST Council is saying do puja. They're saying do puja because all puja items have been brought to zero GST. Items used in puja are being brought down to zero GST. The government is saying do puja.
Items through earlier rates.
We are not comparing. I am saying.
So here's the amusing thing. Here's the amusing thing. When we compare cigarettes to earlier rates, we're being told not to compare. But now anything else, we're being told to compare to earlier rates. This is complete double standard. None of these arguments make any sense. I want to bring in a couple of viewers before we end the show. Sachin is on the phone line from Mangalore. Sachin, go ahead. Sachin, can you hear me?
See, first of all, I would like to just inform you that your program is very good. And see, I'd like to speak about GST.
Yes, Sachin, go ahead.
Yeah. So the government is, the BJP government has to implement something which GST has to, which benefits the Indian citizens, not like, which cigarettes and all these bad items which harm people.
Yes.
Something, like the wheelchair and other things which benefit people. The government is not decreasing the GST for them. So I'd like to, suggest, I would like to give a kind suggestion to the government to reduce GST for all this and
all of these other products. Ramchandra is on the phone line from Bangalore. Ramchandra, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
What
yes.
I feel is that till now the policy what the government has been doing regarding cigarettes is that they have been putting high tax on it to prevent ostensibly to prevent people from using it, and then they put some sin cess or something like that. Whereas the fact of the case is, it's been proved, scientific studies have proved that if you smoke a cigarette, it is believed to reduce your lifespan by about 10 seconds or so. So over his, smoking life, chain smoker, the amount of cigarettes what he's smoking, will bring down his life by substantially by a couple of years. That will not affect him only. It will affect his wife, his family, his.
Right, so fair point. Ramchandra is making a fair point, and Dr. Maini is saying 8 minutes. 8 minutes is what one cigarette will cost you in lifetime.
So 8 minutes. 8 minutes.
8 minutes is what she's saying.
The point is not about the quality of life, the quantity of life, ma'am. It's about the quality of life. We are the second largest tobacco consumer in the world. One. We have the highest number of oral cancer cases in India. So we have the distinction of becoming the higher oral cancer country in the world. So cigarette is causing a huge amount of diseases that are, because we call it tobaccosis, the diseases caused by the smoking, chewing, and tobacco and the snuffing of tobacco. So tobaccosis is a bigger. So basically, we are actually spending more. What are we talking here? I didn't understand. Seeing Mr. Agarwal's statement, I think there is some miscalculation. There cannot be a miscalculation. It has been deliberately done. If the government has not done the homework, then why implement a thing without doing a complete homework? You could have delayed the whole process. You know the impact, the direct impact on the nation, on the people of the country, on the citizens who will think that cigarettes are, the government is for the cigarettes, and the government is actually supporting. The government, and very rightly said, the government could have banned the complete cigarette manufacture, right from the manufacture, production and marketing. The government is,
unfortunately, I have to wrap up this conversation, but let's make it very clear what we are saying here. Somehow, through the process of GST, in India, we wound up with cheaper cigarettes. Both of the tax experts, who are very respected tax experts, GST experts, have confirmed that there are cigarettes that will be cheaper by 4 to 10%. How did this happen? We couldn't have done this by accident. It could not have been an oversight. This cannot be a mistake. You cannot tell me this is work in progress. We will fix it in some time. That answer is simply not good enough tonight. Either the answer has to be, I'm sorry, we do not know how to do mathematics, and there's a mistake, we will fix it tomorrow morning. Or we will realize that this was deliberate to please the lobbies and to allow the government to do its sooty stake sale in less than a month, because it has not had an opportunity from a stock price point of view to do so in the last couple of years. What is at stake here? Our lives. Lives of Indians who are going to smoke those cigarettes, children who are going to have access to it. Also, what else is at stake? When people get sick because of tobacco consumption, they have to be looked after by the larger budget of healthcare, which also comes out of the government budget. This is short-sightedness. And this is something we want fixed immediately. Cigarettes cannot become cheaper in this country. Not by a mistake and not on purpose. Please fix it tomorrow morning. Thanks for watching.